I'm about to show you how to professionally install a wall-mounted pressure washer like this. I just knew there was a better solution than pulling out my pressure washer, running a hose, an electrical line, and supplies out each time. Additionally, running into water spots by the time I had made a full circle around the vehicle like this. In this video, I'm going to take this blank wall and plumb copper and PEX water lines through a water filtration system to a pressure washer, as well as run an electrical outlet from this panel nearby. I'm going to be walking you through step by step on how to do this so that you can have a really clean install at home. I purchased the Active 2.0 system from Obsessed Garage. There are many great alternative and affordable options you can purchase, such as this Giraffe Tools pressure washer. I chose this Obsessed Garage package because their team does a great job at putting together packages that contain what they believe are the best products on the market, such as this Griot's foam cannon, stainless steel fittings, and a Cox Reels hose reel. On the contrary to Obsessed Garage recommendation, I went with a filtration system that is more suitable for the water supplied to my home. The reason this is important is so that it eliminates pollutants, debris, and ions such as calcium from the drinking water that can cause corrosive water spots on your vehicle. By accessing your local county's consumer report, you can see what contaminants are present in your water. My report illustrates hard water with higher levels of calcium and magnesium. Therefore, I chose this iSpring 3-stage water filter. What I like about this system is you can pick filters that are more appropriate to your water supply. Since I have high levels of calcium and magnesium, the 3-filter system to remove sediment, carbon, and iron and magnesium filters fit my house best. Later on in this video, we're going to test the filtered versus non-filtered water so you can see how well it really works. Cool, now let's get to the install. I will be mounting a pressure washer on this wall that is concrete block. However, I know that most homes have drywall present in the garage, therefore I would recommend placing a piece of 3/4 inch plywood as backing plate like done in this video. Before mounting, I consulted my plumber and electrician who are going to be assisting the install so we could best run the supply lines. For plumbing, we're going to be tapping into the supply line to the hot water heater, running it up as PEX through the attic, and then down as copper to the pressure washer. The electrical will have a dedicated 20 amp breaker coming from the panel in this direction. So knowing that the water will be on this side and the electrical here, we're going to be putting the pressure washer and reel at eye level, approximately 6 feet right in the middle of this wall. Cool, now let's mount the water filtration system. I'm going to be using these special Tapcon screws that are great for concrete block. And you're going to need a hammer drill with a special drill bit in order to drill through the concrete. If you're using plywood backing, you can use a lag bolt like this. So I placed my Tapcons with a little washer to help distribute the load or the weight of the water filtration system, holding it up against the wall. Then it was time to mount the hose reel. I made the mistake of putting the hose on the hose reel. I just got excited when it came in. So I made a little cardboard template so that I could mark the points on the wall where I'm going to be using wedge anchors. Now I used wedge anchors instead of Tapcons because this hose reel is going to carry a lot of weight. And by weight from the water that's going to be contained in it, but also from pulling the reel out and reeling it back in. These wedge anchors are rated for more load, and that's why I used them in this case. But basically it's the same principle. You have to drill your hole, you tap them into place, and then you use a wrench to tighten the nut back down once the hose reel is mounted. So once I got the hose reel mounted and the shelf for the pressure washer, I got our minds together so that we could figure out the best plan to make this an absolutely perfect and beautiful setup.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come at least 3 to 4 inches out of the outlet of the actual filter system, and then I'm going to come straight up, and as long as your box is above this section right here, we should be more than fine.
Okay. Yeah, we have this space right here. We'll mount the box, get as close as we can, penetrate the box here, and have it hardwired right through the
How are you going to come into the pressure washer? Are you going to use this rubber hose, or what do you want to do?
I can hard pipe it, but realistically,
Hard pipe would be sick.
I would do a rubber hose. If you want me to hard pipe it, I have no problem. But
Rubber's better because of the vibration.
Rubber's better for the vibration, and not only that, but I was reading up on a lot of the forums on that, and in case you have to service it, you want to be able to take it apart.
Got it.
That is a union right there, so I can still take it apart. That just makes it a little bit easier opposed to trying to...
I have a question with the hard pipe, right?
Yeah.
If you hard pipe that, do you have a integrity issue because of the pressure? Is that why this is this is a heavy duty? See 200 psi. What's conduit rated for?
So the copper rating is all the way from 200 psi as well.
Oh, you're using copper.
Yeah, it is in copper.
You can't, PVC can't do it? No.
I wouldn't recommend PVC, no. Plus, it would just look so off with the installation, having copper and then PVC tying into
and you have
access
those
of it.
fittings, it makes it look nice.
Exactly.
With those fittings and the crimps.
Yeah.
Very nice looking.
Cool, let's get started with the plumbing. On most household water heaters, you're gonna have a couple different lines and electrical coming off of it. Here we have the water inlet. This is the hot water out. This is a pressure and water release valve. And then we have our electrical coming into the hot water heater. Start by turning the water supply off to your house and then opening up a couple faucets to release the pressure. First step Plumber Joe made was using a pipe cutter like this, cutting off the feed line here and here, where we're gonna be placing a T here to go up to the wall mounted pressure washer. We're also gonna be putting a new valve in right there. I'm gonna hand the mic over to Plumber Joe so that he can explain what he did in a little bit more detail.
All right, so what we did here is we cut off the existing cold inlet of the water heater and we installed a T right on the back side. The reason we installed that T is to run an individual line to the car washing station that we're installing today. We also put in a 3/4 brass ball valve to be able to isolate that line. And we also installed a new 3/4 brass ball valve to isolate the water heater as well. We want to isolate the heater. It's always good in case of an emergency that you can isolate the actual unit and the problem, instead of isolating the whole entire home and leaving your customers without water. All right, so what we're doing right here is we're using 3/4 Uponor. It's a cross polyethylene. It's expanded with cold expansion. So basically what it does is this gun right here, it expands the pipe and the pipe has a memory and it shrinks back to its original shape. And then when we expand the pipe and it comes back to its original shape, it squeezes over that barb. About 12 rotations on a 3/4 line will get you fully expanded. And we'll shove the line back up. And we'll bring it right back down. And we're gonna have to strap it right alongside the wall. Right now we're putting on 3/4 copper bell straps to go ahead and isolate this line as we come down the wall through the attic. Once we go ahead and tie everything into our straps, we're going to come directly through the inlet of the actual filter itself, come through, come out. This is going to be the incoming main line to the pressure washer. And then we're going to come down and we're going to tie in a hose bib right on the wall here for Parker as well.
As you may have noticed, we're using Pro Press fittings, and these fittings have a small O-ring inside of them that when clamped with this hydraulic clamper creates a perfect seal so that there's no soldering. Makes the whole job look a lot cleaner, and this is why I got a plumber involved.
This is basically called a deburring tool, and the reason that you want to use the deburring tool is that you have O-rings inside of all of these ProPress fittings, and if you have a sharp burr on your copper when you insert it inside the ProPress fitting, it can cause a nick, and having a nick on that O-ring will indefinitely give you a leak over time, if not right off the rip. So what this is basically Teflon tape and pipe dope. It is a sealer for every single joint that you'll connect from a male to female connection. Us plumbers, we call it life insurance because it helps prevent leaks.
Once we got all of our fittings mocked up for the proper angle, size, and lengths, it was time to crimp them together and then mount the hose bib to the wall to secure everything. Once everything was secured and crimped together, it was time to fill the system full of water. And when you do this, you want to slowly open the valve because if you open it too quickly, it can fill the system full of water very fast. It can either force a leak to happen or cause flooding if a leak is occurring.
All right, so what we're gonna go ahead and do now is we're gonna flush out the whole entire filtration system because the minute you start putting water into the system, you're gonna get a lot of loose carbon and loose debris from the freshly new filters that are coming in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up our hose bib on the outlet port, fully open. And as we open up the main ball valve, we're gonna only go a quarter turn at a time, nice and slow. Once you take a look at where the hose is running outside, usually what I like to do is put a rag in front of it. Once I start getting clear water through the rag, I know that everything is flush and everything is working properly.
We're going to move on to the electrical, and in order to remove the cover off of your panel, you're going to use a squared screwdriver like this. That's also going to be used for the breaker. Make sure you always cut the power when you're working in a panel. Anytime when you get one of these squaredy GFI breakers, you can test it by starting in the off position, and if you give it a good bang on the terminal side, and it trips it like this, that means that it's still good. Now we have an empty spot on my sub panel that we're placing this breaker into. You're going to want to rotate it from the terminal side, push it in, test it, flip it back and forth. And then we use two 90-degree conduits to feed in and out of this box and fed it straight into the panel. So then we made our punch out and connected the conduit to the panel, tapped it into place, and then we were able to run our wire from the breaker into the box, where then we could splice both wires into each other.
So a rule of thumb is usually we have 6 inches of cable outside of a box. So you put your back of your palm against the box, thumb out, and that's a good length. We put this wire nut on, cut this down so we don't have any exposed copper. If we have exposed copper, then that'll lead to potential, and that's electricity, so that will be an issue. So what we do is cut this down to a sufficient length, put the wire nut on, twist it on, and we make sure we have no exposed copper. Exposed copper is a problem, especially when it's inside the box and you try to push it in. The exposed copper could hit ground wire or the box itself. So we want to avoid that, so you make sure you trim down your copper enough so there's nothing exposed.
Once we had our plumbing and electrical completed, I decided to give the conduit a fresh coat of paint, not the copper though, because that looks too good. And in order to keep it looking fresh, all these Pro Press fittings, man, it just came out so simple and clean. And so I cleaned it up with some steel wool to get all the smudges and oil off of there. And it really just made everything pop. But moving on in this video, we're going to be showing you the difference between the filtered and the unfiltered water on this truck. The water that's on the house is unfiltered from the city versus the pressure washer is filtered through the new system. And in order to give you the best results, I made sure to clay bar this entire panel so there weren't any impurities sitting in the paint before we did this process. So with the divider down the middle to avoid any cross-contamination, the left side is going to be with the filtered pressure washer and the right side is going to be from the house or the city water that is unfiltered. I do not have a filtration system on my house. Definitely need to do one after seeing the results to come on the contaminants in my water. But I just rinse down each panel and then I let it dry in the sun. And you guys let me know what you think about the results. I think that it's a pretty drastic difference. I think that these results pretty much speak for themselves. The filtered side has a lot less water spots, but just to prove it to you, I'm taking samples from my house water that's city water and then the filtered water from the pressure system. And we're going to take them to a local pool supply store and have levels of chlorine, pH, alkalinity, calcium hardness, and the total dissolved solids so that we can compare numbers to numbers. So this would be the unfiltered water. The pH was 8. And the total dissolved solids was 300 and the calcium hardness was 195. Now there's really only two differences that I see between the two, surprisingly. The total dissolved solids stayed the same, which I'm quite skeptical about. I kind of want to go back and test the filtered water one more time. But we saw a drop in pH from 8 to 7.8. And then we also saw the calcium hardness drop 195 to 60 parts per million, which has to be the main contributor to these water spots. But hey, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I know that there's some experts out there that know way more about this than I do. I know that hardness and softness contributes to how well your chemicals are going to be working on your vehicle when washing, but we were able to eliminate water spots with this filtration system, and I'm really happy with the results. I'd love to hear your input on what you're doing for your system. Like I said, every house is probably going to be different, but this is what worked best for mine. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I'd love to see what kind of projects you're working on in your garage, so send me links and I'll post them in my next video. If you've ever considered moving to Florida, I would highly recommend you get in touch with my wife, Caroline. She is one of the top realtors in Southwest Florida and can help you find a new dream home, whether it be on the water or in a livable neighborhood, whatever you're looking for. She is an absolute expert. I'll put her information in the description below.
Winston, got your Chiefs jersey on? The game today? Oh yeah. Got a stick? Let me see it. Let me see the stick. You want this one? This one? Okay. Oh, that's a good one. Let me see that thing. Let me see that thing, brother. Ready? Come on. You're supposed to be a retriever. You're supposed to retrieve it, not fetch it. I know you can get it. I'm gonna bring it back to me is the question. Okay.